What if Judy Garland had one more chance to tell her story, in her own words, from beyond the rainbow? In this extraordinary afterlife conversation, Judy opens her heart, reflects on the triumphs and tragedies, and shares the soul wisdom she gained along the way, from stardom to survival, regrets to revelations. This is Judy Garland like you've never heard her before. Hi, I'm Deborah Lupien, voice of the Akashic Records, bringing a personal message from Judy Garland to the world, followed by a Q&A with some astonishing personal details about life and love. Now, take it away, Judy. Some people might say I had a pretty rough life. It was like the odds were stacked against me from the beginning. Still, I didn't give up, never quit, one foot in front of the other every day, doing what I had to do to survive and support my children. I can honestly say I was satisfied. Things can always be better, but if you look at your life from the perspective of it wasn't enough, I wanted more, you'll never be happy. You'll always be in the place of lack. Forget your troubles. Come on, get happy. Let's go to the promised land. Focus on what's good about your life. Revel in gratitude, appreciation, and love, and you'll get more. You limit yourself when you hold the false belief that you're not enough or your life is not enough. Whatever you choose to do is enough. The world doesn't judge you half as rough as you judge yourself. That's a form of self-sabotage, sweetheart. Let it go. Grant yourself grace and peace. Flow down that lazy river of love and light. Soak up the joy and wisdom that you'll encounter along the way. Do what you love. Enjoy it. Share it, but only where you feel happy to do so. Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. Life can be a song if you let it. Songs bring you joy. Sing more. Sing whenever and wherever you feel led. No apologies. Whether your voice is full-bodied and glorious or whether it's a croak, it's yours. Use it. You didn't come to be a church mouse, scurrying around in the shadows, repressing your own voice. If you're going to do that, what was the point in coming? Stop comparing yourself to others. Allow yourself to appreciate who you are and what you've accomplished. You're not done yet. Reach for those things that bring you joy. That's the place to spend your time. That's the best investment of all, in yourself. Outward trappings won't mean a thing when this life is over. It's the gifts of the soul that are lasting. And don't worry if you get a few bumps and bruises along the way. They give you character. After all, if you didn't encounter a few bumps and bruises, you wouldn't learn very much. The greatest lessons come in the times of struggle, and every struggle means something. Look for the deeper lesson. Hold that close to your heart and remember, then it's all worthwhile. I know you get tired of people insisting that you chose this life, so you should make the best of it. It's true. While this is a more challenging planet, it's less challenging than some. Look for the bright spots and tarry there. When you encounter the dark spots, move on quickly. They are not meant for lingering. Gosh, I had a good life. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I've had many great lives, but the Judy incarnation, that one was quite special. I wish I could have provided a better environment for my kids. We went through some tough times together. But you know what? That's not all bad. The greatest lessons are learned in those times of tribulation. They make you stronger. If your whole life were one carefree day after the next, it would get boring and you wouldn't learn much. Now, why would you want to waste a life like that? I say, take what you got, make the most of it. Do your best to be happy every day. Use that beautiful voice of yours and keep on keeping on. That way, when you get to the end of the line, You can look back with satisfaction that you did your best. You made your mark, and you had a lot of fun along the way. It's really quite simple when you look at it like that. No one is asking you to turn water into wine. Thank goodness. Just be the best that you can be. That's enough for your soul, and it's enough for your creator. Toodaloo. We'll talk again. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate you coming forward. Now, if you don't mind, I have some questions I'd love to ask you because people want to know more about the real Judy. Well, I think this is just a hoot and a holler, and I'm so happy to be here to have this conversation. What do you want to know? I'm an open book. How about we start with the simple things that a lot of people ask of you, like who was your favorite co-star? Well, that's a really hard question to answer because I had some of the best. How about who was the most fun? Who did you enjoy when you think back on all the experiences? Is there anyone who stands out? Maybe a singing partner? That would have to be Donald O'Connor. I loved that man. We had a lot of good laughs together. How about your favorite performance? What's the one that's so close to your heart that you think of it fondly when you reflect on your career? Playing the Palace. That was the one because it was an ultimate career achievement. It was so sweet and satisfying being there in front of that live audience, feeling all the love pouring out to me. Even though we weren't so aware of energy back then, I felt it at a deep level, and it gratified my soul, particularly at that time in my life, because I'd been through some rough times. I was feeling like the comeback kid, on top of the world, loved and filled with hope that my life was going to get back on track. I'd be in the chips again. It wasn't meant to be, of course, but in that moment, that was the pinnacle for me. Gosh, that makes me want to cry, Judy. So that brings up another question. If that was the pinnacle and then it was kind of a downhill slide, when it was all said and done, were you satisfied with that life? Did you meet the goals that you intended for that incarnation? Or were you filled with a lot of regret? Well, I'd say it's a mixed bag. There were so many high points, achievements, far more than the average performer. So what's not to be grateful for? But of course, I wanted more. There can always be more, but that's the ego's desire. When I look at it from the spiritual side, all of those trials and tribulations I went through caused me to do a lot of soul searching, to go deep and decide who I was and who I wanted to be, what I wanted my legacy to be. So when it was all said and done, I think there was more good than bad. And the bad is just a learning experience. So all in all, yes, I'd say it was a good life. It leaves me with a warm, happy feeling when I think about it. Because I gotta tell you, I had some juicy lifetimes before that. Lifetimes that were definitely not what you'd call a success. So yes, the life of Judy was good. I'm content with it. That's really good to hear. Are you aware that when I do live streams and channel for people, almost every time the angels bring through one of your songs? Are you aware that's going on? Oh, sure. It's like a telegraph. It comes across the wires to me, and I get quite a kick out of it. It tickles me to know that the angels like to share my music, that the people like to hear it, and that it's used to lift up and encourage them onto a positive track. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Touches my heart. Who would you say was the most influential person in your life? Louis B. Mayer, without a doubt. I know that might surprise people. Louis B. had his faults, and you might say he effed up my life, but he gave me a start. He saw something in me, and after that, it was what I made of it. So I'm grateful to Louis B. I wish things had gone a little differently, but when you put it in perspective of how things were back then, he did good by me. But Judy, a lot of people would say that he was responsible for getting you addicted to drugs. and creating a lot of your emotional problems because he starved you and insisted that you be thin for the movies. Well, I have a little different perspective on that now. Louis had a big job running the studio. He knew what the public wanted, and he was just trying to give it to them to make us all successful, including himself. That was part of the gig back then. I wish it hadn't been, but I wasn't the only one. That was part of the deal if you wanted to be in the movies. Take it or leave it. I chose to take it. It was a wild ride, but it was my ride. No regrets on that accord. I find that astonishing, Judy, but I'm glad that you feel that way about it so that it's a happy memory. Do you have a favorite anecdote? Some story that you'd like to share with your loving public? Working on Meet Me in St. Louis is a standout. Being Margaret O'Brien's big sister. I really enjoyed that because, I was the baby in my family. So having the chance to play the role of big sister felt really good. It was also a time in my life when I was maturing into adulthood. The whole world was in front of me. It was an exciting and fulfilling time. Anything specific about the experience that makes it a standout? Yeah, being Margaret O'Brien's big sister, because even though I was acting, it felt real. That's the way it was for me. I could lose myself in a role and really feel it, experience it like it was happening to me, not to somebody else. I lived through those roles, vicariously, you might say. I felt it. It made me happy. I enjoyed it. And what's better than doing work that you enjoy? Makes you happy and you earn a good living doing it. I'd say that's pretty darn good. What advice do you have for up and coming young stars to help them navigate the system without being destroyed by it? It's true, Hollywood can chew them up and spit them out. It's a tough life. But if it's your dream, don't let anything stop you. Probably the biggest thing is to know your own worth. You have value or they wouldn't be giving you those roles. I should say hiring you for those roles because they're not giving you anything. You're working for it. You wouldn't be the one chosen if you didn't have what it takes. So honor that. Love and appreciate yourself so that you're not so needy. Because when you're needy, it makes you weak. When you need the accolades and the praise to feel good about yourself, that's when you get in trouble. So take some courses, get therapy, whatever you need to do to understand your own value and bring it to the table. It'll make you a better performer. Create more happiness for you, and you'll be able to stand up to the slings and arrows that always come. Because yes, it's a mixed bag. There's always going to be critics, people who want to run you down because they're jealous. You need to own who you are and what you bring to the table. Don't let anyone put you down. Because the truth is, honey, they're jealous. There's always someone coming up behind who will step on you to get ahead. So if you're not secure about who you are and what you bring to the table, you'll be miserable. You won't achieve what you could have if you just simply held on to love and respect for yourself. Have enough respect that you don't need to go begging for crumbs. Own your brilliance. Shine your bright light. That could make all the difference for you. Then, even if you don't ultimately achieve your wildest dreams, like an Oscar, you'll be satisfied that you did your job well. You laid it all out there on the table and left nothing behind. You don't need statuettes to prove your value. If you first work on owning and loving who you are, get that right, everything else will fall into place. That's what's missing from the Hollywood equation. They don't help the kids build their self-esteem. They bring them up needy, as if they're starving for the next compliment, waiting for those crumbs to be thrown out to them. Only happy when they have a hit and they get the accolades. But that doesn't last. It falls away. You do work you can be proud of for the rest of your life. Build that solid foundation. There are great character actors out there who know who they are, what they bring to the table, and they're happy and satisfied with their careers. They don't need to reach the pinnacle. I'm not saying you shouldn't go for the pinnacle, but you can't let that be what gives you your value because that's easily snatched away. It doesn't last. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's what I would tell the up-and-comers and their parents. Do whatever you have to do to help them know they matter. They are valuable. They're shining stars, whether they make it to the top of the marquee or not. They showed up, did their best, and that's what's important. Thank you for that heartfelt response. If you had a do-over, is there anything you would change about your life as Judy? Well, if I had a do-over, hmm, I'd find a way to give my kids a more stable home. That's my big regret that they had such instability in their lives. I'm not saying it's bad that kids have to go through struggles with their parents, because sometimes that's the way it is. Still, that was my big regret, that I didn't do better by my kids. So, what's your biggest takeaway from your life as Judy? The greatest lesson that you learned? Well, it's part and parcel of my advice for the youngsters. It's all got to start inside of you. You have to have a solid foundation of knowing who you are, what you're about, and what you're going to do. And don't let the naysayers shake your confidence. It's just their opinion, and you know what they say about opinions. Yours is the one that counts the most. The biggest takeaway for me is if you don't have it on the inside, you're not going to have it on the outside. That's where it all starts. You want to be happy, love, and appreciate yourself first. Is there anybody that you worked with who you really appreciated, who was a standout for you? Well, that would have to be my kids, because when I got to the point in my life where I could bring my kids into the act, that was sweet. Made me so proud. It filled my heart to practically bursting that they could have that benefit and their moment in the spotlight. That I could help them do that without having to go through the system that I went through, one that breaks you down. Yeah, so performing with my kids, that would have to be the standout for me and my favorite. Those kids were my heart, my everything. I'm grateful to the men in my life who gave me those kids, but truthfully, none of those men held a candle to them. I'm still proud of my children today, looking forward to the time when we're reunited. What's the most important message you'd like to share with the world? I'd say for everybody, the most important thing to focus on is what matters the most, and that's love. If you ain't got love, you ain't got nothing. Deep, abiding love for the important people in your life. Might be family, might not, might be dear, devoted friends. But you need to seek out those loving relationships in your life. Honor those relationships. Work on them. Because when you get right down to it, that's the most important thing. That's your solid foundation. Love. Build your life upon a foundation of love, and then you've got something. Okay, last question. What are you most excited about for your next incarnation? I'm excited that I'm going to be coming back to a new world, a very different world than the one I lived in, a world where people value and respect one another because love is the core of their being. That's a world I want to live in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Judy as much as I did. You know, Judy's journey reminds us that success isn't about the spotlight, it's about the light within. If her words touched your heart, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share her message with somebody who needs a little hope. And let us know in the comments what part of Judy's message resonated most deeply with you. Remember, love is your true foundation. Everything else will follow. This is Deborah Lupien, voice of the Akashic Records. If you enjoyed this conversation from the afterlife, I think you'll love some of these.